Hello and welcome back to Galgorm Hall for what should be the December update for 2018. I'm not actually going to give you an update this month on the layout. There's been very little progress carried out throughout this month, primarily down to, well, it's coming up to Christmas. We're having a few drinks in the house, we're sorting out Christmas presents, the sort of thing that happens at this time of year. So progress hasn't been great on the layout. Rather than just leaving this month blank for a video, I thought I would give you a tour of the layout instead. A number of you over the last few weeks have been asking me, what's the rest of the layout look like? You got a little glimpse of it in the Meet the Fleet video, in November time I think that was, and certainly since then some people have asked, have you got a track plan? What's the layout look like on the other side of the room? So that got me thinking. In this year I've picked up over 600 subscribers, and that's the majority of my subscribers have really come in this last year, and throughout all of this year I have concentrated all my work on the branch line of the layout. So most of you, other than the little glimpses in running sessions, will not have actually seen anything that's going on elsewhere. You'll also not be aware of what my ideas and thoughts are for the future of the layout, what I have planned for other areas. So I thought this was a prime opportunity to take you a walk around and show you some of the things. Well, there's nothing really happening on the other side, but certainly show you things that I plan to do there in the future. So let's go have a look. Okay, so let's start with an overview of the actual room. As you'll know, I'm working in the loft, and with it comes certain restrictions, and you can see quite clearly the main restriction I have is all the trusses running down the room. Now I do have a nice open space to walk in between, but getting access to the baseboards on either side can be quite difficult at times. The one main restriction I find with all the trusses is that I can't stand back and take nice running shots of trains running right down the layout. You really do have to get in on top of it to really capture those scenes. It also means that whenever I'm doing some of the recordings for the videos in situ on a particular aspect of the layout, things tend to get quite close because I can't get the camera much further away or further back to be able to show you a wider scope of the area that I'm working on. Now, in terms of the layout itself, the layout runs right round the loft, and on either left and right of your picture, the layout runs 14 feet down either side on 2-foot wide boards, and then at each end, the one in front of you and the one behind me, there are 6-foot lengths and they're 1 foot wide of connecting tracks basically. So let's go over and we'll start looking at the layout itself. So this is the side of the layout that most of you won't have actually seen before, and it will feature the main station for the layout. Whenever I started designing the track plan for Galgorm Hall, I really did struggle to put something together until I eventually hit on the idea of taking my local station of Ballymena and using that track plan for the layout. And the intention is that this side of the layout will feature predominantly the station, the signal box, and certain other key areas of what this my local station looked like circa 1960s. Now that's brought it with it its own difficulties. The station has changed considerably since that time, and I'll come to it shortly whenever we start actually talking about that area. But as it stands in the minute, I just wanted to show you an overview of what the track looks like from as far back as I can actually get it, before we go into a little bit more detail. So this is the bottom corner of the layout where the track leaves the station, goes round the curve and enters one of those bridging sections to take it to the other side of the room. Those tracks actually appear then at the branch line section where I've been working on. Now this section here is going to be based on the Galgorm Road, and I should have a picture in the corner now showing how that looks today. Now as you can see, I have the bridge already in place. Now this bridge obviously is different to the one in the picture, but it was something I had built for the previous layout, and I was quite pleased with the construction of it, so I didn't want to throw it away, you know, and I had nowhere else to use it on the layout. And at the end of the day, this is purely a representation. I'm not looking to make it an accurate portrayal of what the Ballymena station looked like. So the bridge is in place, the road will go underneath, and to the left of this will be the access into the station. Now to the right of it, as you can see, the track is on an elevated section. As to the picture shows a grass embankment on either side. What I think I am probably going to do, purely so I can get a little bit more modelling in, is to make this a brick embankment instead. And my ideas aren't set in stone yet. I know behind the layout where those buildings are, I want there to be some form of a busy street scene, and it'll probably be shops and offices and that sort of thing. As it veers out on sort of in around here, what I would really like to have is a flat iron type building. Now again, there's a picture coming up on the screen now, and it shows you the flat iron building in Belfast, and I would like to model something such as this for that corner, which would then mean I would have a road veering off to the left and another one sort of following the curve to the right, and the flat iron building would sort of sit just perfectly right into the centre of that. In the foreground, at the minute, well, up until a few days ago, I had been thinking that I would probably put some form of terraced housing in here, and I may well still do that at the very front end of it, and maybe only make them sort of part relief, you know, disappearing into the front of the layout. But behind that, I think because I am going to do the brick embankment, I would like to have the arches built into it and maybe have some lockups within those arches. I think it would make sort of quite a nice scene. So that's this area. If we swing round now to the station, let's see if we can get that straight for you. Okay, now Ballymena station has changed an awful lot over the years. It was originally built in 1906, designed by the architect Barclay Dean Wise. In the mid-1970s, the decision was taken to basically tear apart all of Wise's architectural splendour and replace it with an ugly monstrosity that we have today. And again, there's a picture there to show you how that looks now. Now what that picture does show you is that from the roadside, there's quite a slope that runs up the side of the station to the upper end, and this is why we have this raised section that goes up to the flat area at the top. So I'll try and get the finger in here just to show you what I'm talking about. The flat area up here. Now as it stands at the minute, I've left that flat, but the intention will be to run a slope down here, but I haven't wanted to do that until I actually get the building of the station in place, because then I know sort of what dimensions I need to cut for the wood or whatever material I'm going to use to create that raised road running up past the station. But hopefully you can see from the pictures that I'm showing you, and also from what I have here, the station will probably sit around about here. The platforms will be on this raised section itself. There will be the two platforms, one here and one on the other side of where that class 25 is sitting. Now originally the station served not only mainline trains running between Belfast and Londonderry, but it also served a narrow gauge line which terminated at Ballymena and then headed off to Larne. Now initially I had considered a narrow gauge option, but knowing absolutely nothing about the that aspect of the hobby, I opted instead to just make it a standard gauge line, and this is where the branch line terminates. So let me just move the camera a wee second if we can get in a wee bit closer further down the layout to explain that a little bit more. So we're a little bit further down the layout. As you can see, this is the cut in section, and the ramp sort of ends at this point here, but it maybe gives you a better chance to see the sidings for the terminating platform on the other side. That platform will end sort of quite abruptly right at the end of the raised or the elevated section of board, and that basically serves as the branch platform. There is a run round loop on that platform. Now, that wasn't an original feature of Ballymena, but I felt the need to put it in to be able to release, if I'm using any steam locomotives, I'm able to release them from this end and bring them back round to the front of the train. If we move further around, this comes into the junction area of Galgorm Hall. Really the only main junction that I do have in Galgorm Hall, and there's a couple of features, sorry, let's tilt that a wee bit, a couple of features that I wanted to point out here. Now, where this coach is sitting on the left hand side will actually come in alongside the main platform 1, let's call it. Now, this is an actual original feature from Ballymena. That platform was used to bring in goods vans that delivered bread or picked up bread from the local flour mill and took it back out and on down the line to Belfast or to Londonderry. To the left of that, where the Western and the 47 are sitting, that line actually served as a coal drop, and it brought in coal from Belfast, dropped the coal off here, down a coal chute, where it was then shoveled by hand into lorries to be distributed around the town. Now, I'm not 100% sure if I've got enough space to model that, but it's an aspect that I would like to feature if I can, and it's possible that I could extend the layout out a little bit into the room. You know, I've got probably another 6 inches. I could maybe extend it out and create a drop down section for that feature to appear. The one difficulty of that is I don't have any photographic evidence of it, and it's purely information that I've gleaned from the former signalman who ran the signal box in Ballymena. Now, many of you will have seen this signal box before that's sitting on the layout. That is modelled on the box in Ballymena, and it took me about 3 months to scratch build this, but the architectural styling of it is very much one of its core features, and it's something that hopefully will be replicated through onto the layout as well. And some of those pictures that I showed you of the modern day Ballymena station, there are still some original features, such as the hand railings that go down the walkway. The walkway itself still has its original tiling in place, but beyond that and the signal box, there is nothing left of the old station in Ballymena. Now, there is a double slip crossover. Now, this was purely put in for a space saving exercise. The track plan varies slightly from how it would have looked prototypically, but we all have to sort of work within the constraints and the space that we have. We start to veer off, as you can see the double line sort of veers off to the left as it heads round that other joining section to the other side of the layout. So I needed to sort of condense everything at this stage to make it work for the space that I have, hence the double slip, and also the slight geometry change in track plan over what would be the prototype. But it still gives an essence of it. Again, as I said before, it's the essence that I'm trying to capture here. Now, the double slip accesses the branch line, which is sitting just below where the branch line is the line just below where that Esso tanker is on the top left hand corner. The branch, a train running from the main line can then access the branch and head on down that way if it wishes, or it can reverse back up in and access the sheds, which are in the top hand corner. Now, the shed is a much more compressed version of what Ballymena would have appeared at one time or another, but it gives a good, it utilises that corner space quite well, I think. And the aim is that I will build a representation of the old shed that used to stand in Ballymena as well. If you look just a little bit further around, you will see where those coal wagons sit. There is a little V between that and the Class 40 to the right of it. In that little V, I hope to put some form of coal staging in there. And again, it was a feature of Ballymena. There was a large coal staging which served to supply all the steam locomotives that came into Ballymena, and I would like to sort of replicate that in some form or another with a smaller version of that, probably in a dilapidated sort of condition, because we're right at the end of the steam era as when I'm modelling, but it's another little aspect that I'm going to look at. So that more or less sort of takes in everything that's going on the main side of the layout. One of the reasons that I haven't actually started doing anything on this side is I've been trying to gather up as much information that I can on the old station of Ballymena. It's very, very difficult to get photographs that actually show the station frontage on the outside of the building rather than on the platform side. And even those that do appear on the platform tend to have a locomotive or a train sitting right in front of it, which then, you know, you lose an awful lot of the architecture that you're trying to capture, you know, in your modelling. I have some black and white photographs here that I'll just show you now that are pinned up. So first off, this is one of the OS maps. Whenever I started researching for the track plan for Ballymena, I visited the local library and pulled out the OS maps sort of for the early 1900s right up to the 1960s, just to see what the plan, or you know, what the layout of the track was like. And if I bring it in as close as I can, you sort of get an idea as to what I'm trying to achieve based on what was here before. One aspect actually that I haven't touched on is that I'm running a double main line right the way around the layout. Ballymena actually was only served by a single line, but you know, for operational interest I felt that it was necessary to open that out to a double line to make it more enjoyable, you know, watching trains go by. If we move across a wee bit, these are some of the pictures. Now this has come from a local railway enthusiast who gave me copies of these pictures, and as you can see there, this is the old outside of the station, and you know, a very grand entrance hall and canopy. Moving further up, you have an area where the buses parked. There was a small goods entry, you know, I suppose where those little goods wagons were coming into that siding, and this would have been the access point to it. And that's actually the entrance for that goods siding there. And you have the station master's house as well, sitting right at the top end. You move further on, you have some of the platforms, you have sheds that ran down the length of the station. Most of this won't get modelled because it would really be off scene from where I'm going, but as you can see from this one here, just here is the edge of the platform, sort of right at the top end of where I'll be modelling. And there is, albeit in black and white, showing how the station did look at one time, and I'm sure you'll agree it was a much more impressive looking building than what we're left with today. One other photograph here, if we can get it away from the glare, it's quite a shiny one. You can see the old sidings, so if it's possible to see, well, obviously that's the shed, and this is an old mess hut that served the guys working in the shed. And just here is the coal staging that I would like to try and capture a little bit of if I can. But you can see, I mean, if I had been a little bit more, say like Michael Henfrey, and was prepared to make my own track, I think it would have looked superb to have some of the standard and narrow gauge tracks sort of overlapping each other like it is here, but I don't have Michael's patience or desire to actually want to go down that road. And this one here, this is probably one of the oldest pictures still available of the old station, and this is sort of circa 1900 with all the ponies and traps lined up ready to pick up paying passengers, coming off the train. But there's still plenty, from these sort of pictures here that little features that'll make for nice modelling. You've got the likes of the grass embankment that comes down from the platforms above, the fact that most of the station sits at a lower level to what the platform, the station is above, or the platforms are above. Even the large square glassed roof to allow light into that atrium. I have the odd picture of inside, but most of it, I'm a complete loss as to what that is. Now, in actual fact, I've been speaking to Sam Russell from Hillside Central, and he has got me in touch with a guy in Bangor who has over 12,000 slides apparently of railway stations in Ireland, and I'm hoping to get in contact with him in the bid of maybe coming across a few more little nuggets of pictures that I haven't actually seen as yet, having trawled the internet and the sorts. But anyway, let's move back to the layout. So this side of the layout will be much more familiar to most of you because it's the sort of area that gets featured quite a bit in all these videos. Perhaps maybe not so much this top end. The double main line comes around from the connecting area which has left the station, and the branch line at the far end. Now the idea for this section will be to more or less have it just rolling hills landscapes. I think the idea will be for the branch line, let's move the camera around a little bit again. Let's give you bearings actually. So there is the branch that I've been working on, and the branch veers in underneath the main line and sweeps back up round. Now where the branch comes in under the bridge and alongside that very steep embankment, and it does get close to the backboard, and that was really just so I could have as smooth a transition going into the corner as possible. But what I think I will do is probably from about this point here, the branch will enter a tunnel and then sweep right the way around to exit the tunnel off camera here, somewhere coming up the incline. Now that will mean I will have to have some sort of access point, particularly maybe in the corner and around about here, in case there are any derailments, because if they're going to happen, they're going to happen here. But I think the idea is that the branch will disappear off. It'll hopefully help give the illusion that there's some sort of distance between the branch station and the main station where it's travelling to and from. On top of the hill section, I haven't finalised what I plan to do, but it possibly will have a road running down, and I would like to get a bridge going over the main line. At the minute, the main line sits atop everything. There are bridges running under it, but I would like to at least get one bridge running over the top of it. I may be able to get another one on the connecting section between this side and the other, but at the minute I've only got the one. Sorry, I haven't got any running over the top of the line. So the idea might well be to bring a road sort of from the corner right across down this hill which the branch is running under, and across this bridge and go off scene again. It's still very much up in the air, but it's an area that I would like to start modelling early next year. There's still an awful lot of work to do down at the far corner, but whenever sometimes whenever you've got a big area to work on and it's just filling out plaster and painting and putting static grass down, maybe there's a couple of months where I could concentrate on that, and it would be a huge blanket of stuff just done in the one time frame. So finally, if we move down to the branch, let's see. So everybody will be very familiar with this branch because it's something that I've just talked about over the course of the last year. Whenever I started work on this in January, it was bare card and baseboards, just like the bottom right hand corner. But as the year has progressed, the branch section has really sort of begun to come together. There's this first signs of buildings going in. The platforms are more or less done except for the surfaces to be dealt with, and there's a station to be put in there. Now this is a fictitious part of the layout. It was just somewhere where I could have DMUs and short coach trains being pulled from the main station to somewhere else, that you felt that it was actually going somewhere. And while a couple of trains trundle around the main line, I can maybe do a little bit of shuttling back and forth between branch and main line, and also, you know, organise and distribute a few wagons to the branch station as well. From an early stage, I had decided that this branch station would be called Abbott's Grove. It's not something, I'm not even sure if I've actually ever mentioned before that what the station would be, but that's the title of it. It's Abbott's Grove. The station itself I intend to model on another local country station of Cullybackey, and again, sort of, it's another of Barclay Dean Wise's architectural designs, and it remains in place, and I have the photographs there to actually start the construction of it. I had considered doing it next, but you know, a few other plans have come up. The little Victorian houses kit is underway, as you can see there, and then in the far corner is where the little shop scratch build series is going to be positioned as well. So the station will have to wait a little while longer. I really enjoy doing the building work, however it takes up a tremendous amount of time, and whenever you're wanting to sort of get on and get some other things done, the buildings tend to take a little bit of a back seat. And I think two actual building constructions underway at one time is probably more than enough at this stage, as much as I would like to get that station in. Now the branch line, as you see, comes in sort of bottom centre of your picture, and it veers off. There's a run round loop to allow trains that don't stop at the branch to travel on through the tunnel section at the far end, or you come into the station itself and there are two small sidings to serve either possibly you know, a single car DMU, well it's not a DMU, a single car unit, or even to park wagons up while they shuttle them about to get them into the goods sidings. The line then reconnects at the far end and crosses over the road and disappears through that tunnel. Now there's one other little plan that I have for that bottom corner, so we'll take you down there and have a wee look at it now. So as you can see from the void in behind the back scene, I do actually have a small amount more space available to me for the layout. The reason I didn't extend it right back to that wall is that to the left of the camera is a large water bucket, which, you know, is used obviously for the household. So that sort of made it quite restrictive as to being able to get access in around that area to operate with. But the idea was, with this track running through the tunnel, but just there at the bottom of the screen, it disappears and it actually comes out the other side, and the plan at some stage will be to, oh sorry, the camera's going to fall on me. The plan at some stage is to extend the baseboards out that 4 feet to the wall to create a fiddle yard for the branch. That will enable me to actually at least take trains off scene as if they're continuing on in their journey, rather than just terminating at the branch station of Abbott's Grove. But it will also be useful as a storage yard for DMUs and that, so I don't have to have all the trains sitting on the layout at any one time. You'll notice actually that I don't have any fill yard aspect to to the layout at the minute, and excuse me, and it's probably something that's going to come and bite me back in the backside at some point in the future. We all sort of gather up extra locomotives, extra rolling stock, and we run out of space to put them. Most people put them into a fiddle yard, and then they can bring them on and off scene as and when they please. I haven't sort of accommodated for that at the minute, but the thoughts are there, and the thoughts are such that if I move you around again, at some point I may well, on this end of this connecting board, I may well sort of bring the lines, this one and on this one here, out into a connecting board that will run out into the middle of the loft again. Now at this stage it's not something that I want to actually, let's move down to the other end here. At this stage it's not something that I want to consider, but I reckon, you know, as the years move on, and you know, we've got young kids in the house, and we do use this roof space, as you can see, for storage of old toys and food mixers and that, and you know, Christmas trees and all that sort of thing. But I'm hoping in years to come that we will maybe use this area less and less as the boys grow up, and you know, we maybe sort of can dwindle down some of our rubbish that we hold on to. It's probably a pipe dream, but who knows. And what I would maybe do is bring that track out, as you see, down into the centre of the layout, and it would create a fiddle yard that I could then access into the layout. You know, even if it was only 1.5 foot wide, I could maybe get 6, maybe even 8 roads into that would store some trains for me. And if I have the ability to make it that it's a moving island as such, that I can move it across to one side, so it gives me as much access to the loft ladder as possible, or for, you know, for bringing stuff in and out of the layout. Or I may well, you know, I could maybe even sort of create a folding aspect to it as well, but it's something for a future time. So it's not something that I haven't considered altogether. I know I don't have a fiddle yard, but there are opportunities there in the future to maybe produce some form of fiddle yard. There may even also be the opportunity, you know, that I would run it off this corner of the layout and then around behind the water butt, you know, that sits behind this shelving here. And as difficult as it may well be to sort of get access to that, maybe if it's only a fiddle yard and you're rolling the trundle and the train in and bringing it back out, it might work. I don't know, but there are some ideas there anyway. So that's more or less the layout. You know, give me a comment down below and let me know what you think. If there's anything that I've missed or I haven't explained to you, please let me know. I've tried to put as many photographs into this as possible, just to try and help sort of allow you to visualize what the prototype looks like and what some of my ideas are for the layout. So there we go. I hope you find that informative and interesting. There's an awful lot of work to be done on the layout over the coming years, and I hope it's of some interest to you, that you'll stick along with it and follow me on the journey. In the immediate future, I will continue and work on the branch line. I would like to work on the other half of that branch line section. I think it could be done in an awful lot quicker pace, because there's, you know, as I've already described, there's not going to be the same amount of scenics involved in that area, but we'll see. Things come up, plans change, you know, that sort of thing. But I have hoped to start that maybe early next year. Most of you will have seen the video that I did introducing the scratch build series. I'm going to be starting that in January, and some of you have already said that you're going to join me in that and try building the little shop alongside me, so that should be good fun. If you haven't come across that video, click on the link in the top there and it will direct you to it. I think that's pretty much it. Just leaves me to say, I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and I look forward to catching up with you again in 2019. Until then, see you then. Bye.